receivers. Wide receivers. If there's any running backs I missed, just let me know. All right. Wide receivers. Wide receiver ones. Elite wide receiver ones for the week. CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs. Yes, I said it. Stephon Diggs, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Cooper Kupp. That's it. That's my tier of elite wide receiver ones. All of them are must starts. All 7 of those guys are must starts. CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, ARSB, Stephon Diggs against the Chargers, Jettas, Tyreek Hill, even with the ankle, and Cooper Kupp. There's no way you sit any of those receivers. Next up, we got some, maybe in your 8-team leagues, you think about benching some of these guys, or maybe one of these names might surprise you. First on this list, T. Higgins. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman if he's able to give it a go. DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Chris Olave, DK Metcalf, and if he's able to play, Keenan Allen belongs on this list too. T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, if he's able to give it a go, Mike Evans, Olave, and DK. All on the back end, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 radar. Now, T. Higgins, I know there's probably a lot of questions about that, but going up against this Pittsburgh secondary, I think T. Higgins is going to have opportunities. And a lot of the things that we liked about Jamar Chase in this same role are there. When Jamar Chase is out, T. Higgins plays well. That's just the name of the game. So T. Higgins, to me, enters that fringe wide receiver 1 range, more mid-tier wide receiver 1 for me this week. Michael Pittman, if he's able to give it a go, doesn't matter the matchup against Atlanta, you get him in your lineups. This is a matchup-proof player so far. He's a wide receiver 1 for me this year. DJ Moore, coming off the ankle injury, that's the only concern I have against this Arizona team. Otherwise, I might have put him another tier up as a must-start. But DJ Moore should have a better day than he did last week. Devontae Adams, tough matchup against L'Jarius Sneed, but you still got to put him in the lineups. Get Devontae Adams in there. Mike Evans, plus matchup for Mike Evans. Obviously, we know that. Chris Olave, coming off of the injury, good to go against this Rams team. So you get Chris Olave in your lineups. And then DK Metcalf, obviously in a plus matchup as well, is very startable this week. And then, like I said, if Keenan Allen is able to give it a go, you start Keenan Allen. So if there's any of those that are questions, let me know too. I got more coming. My high-end wide receiver twos. We got Jalen Waddle in the matchup against the Cowboys. Amari Cooper. Rashee Rice is in here. Puka Nacua, Deebo Samuel. They are all in the high-end wide receiver 2 range for different reasons. Jalen Waddle is expected to be part of a pretty high-scoring matchup, so I like Jalen Waddle. His involvement, especially if Tyreek Hill, is not fully healthy. Okay? That also lets me know they're going to involve Waddle a little bit more in the offense. Amari Cooper, force-fed by Joe Flacco. I expect that to continue. Rashee Rice has been force-fed by Pat Mahomes. Looks to be the number 1 receiver on this team. I put Rashee Rice in there. Deebo Samuel has had a nice floor, has a tough matchup against Baltimore, who won't be as leaky as some of these secondaries that the Niners have played over the last couple weeks. So give me Deebo Samuel in this matchup. They've been using him in the run game as well, so he'll get multiple touches. It's about does he find the end zone, which Deebo's been doing for the last few weeks. And then Puka Nacua, obviously in a game against the Saints. So they're going to need him as well in this game on Thursday night. So Puka, he does have a little bit of floor, but obviously we know the ceiling when it comes to Puka Nacua. Next tier of wide receiver 2s, more back end, mid-tier to back end wide receiver 2s. Calvin Ridley atop this list. Right next to him is Devontae Smith, Brandon Ayuk, and Terry McLaurin. So Calvin Ridley, obviously, the only receiver left, it feels like, in Jacksonville. You can start Calvin Ridley this week. And you're playing the upside here. And Calvin's had a lot of opportunity this season, but he's been really inconsistent. Against Tampa Bay, this is a plus matchup for Calvin Ridley. You can get him in your lineups. Devontae Smith is a go for me this week as well. Brandon Ayuk has shown a little bit more a lower floor than you like to see. over recent weeks. And going up against Baltimore, we know he's going to be a 4 or 5 catch, move the chains type of guy. Does he have a chance to get it in the end zone? Does he have a chance for the long play is really going to be the question mark there. And then Terry McLaurin dealing with all kind of quarterback controversy as well there for Washington. And then in a tough matchup, I'm sure they're going to move him around. I don't think Sauce don't really follow. So I think Terry McLaurin will probably get moved around a little bit. I still trust him in this matchup. They're going to have to move the ball downfield. The next tier of wide receivers. It's funny because I put McLaurin over Garrett Wilson in the same matchup. But if Zach Wilson is healthy, I might flip-flop those two. I might put Garrett Wilson ahead. We got to see if Zach Wilson is healthy. Okay? Garrett Wilson tops the next tier. Then we got Chris Godwin, DeAndre Hopkins, Nico Collins coming off of the injury, Drake London, Jordan Addison, Courtland Sutton, and Tyler Lockett. That's going to finish that next section, right? Of the high-end wide receiver threes. Garrett Wilson obviously needs Zach Wilson to be in there in order to justify ranking him that high in a plus matchup against Washington. Chris Godwin should continue to eat. He's more of a floor play. I think we saw a little bit of his ceiling last week. DeAndre Hopkins, we need to know if it's Will Levis or if it's Tannehill. With Will Levis, there's a wide range of outcomes, right? Ceiling versus floor, like wide range of outcomes. With Tannehill, I think we see a little bit more of that 3 or 5 catch from D-Hop, somewhere in the 60 to 70 yard type range. Not a lot of upside. Drake London, tough matchup for him this week, so I'm kind of playing against the matchup. He's played well in good matchups, bad in bad matchups. I expect that to continue. A risky wide receiver 3. Jordan Addison showed a bunch of promise with Nick Mullins catching 2 touchdowns last week, but was it a fluke where they can move the ball around a little bit? My gut says yes, even though it's a good matchup for him on paper. Courtland Sutton against New England. I'm sure New England's going to be wanting to bottle him up. Snowy conditions potentially as well, so be careful with Courtland Sutton. And then Tyler Lockett, we've seen a little bit of the floor with him. Plus matchup for Tyler Lockett. Let's see how it turns out. All right, and then to round up, I got these wide receiver 3, 4s broken up into 3 different tiers, okay? This first tier of mid-tier to back-end wide receiver 3s. Zay Flowers, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson, Jacoby Myers, Jaden Reed, JSN, Curtis Samuel. High-end complementary pieces. That's how I view this tier, right? High-end complementary pieces. Zay Flowers would have been a little higher up, but what happens? Zay Flowers in a tough matchup this week, right? His work's been kind of spread out too. He's had a monster week when he had that long touchdown, but other than that, he's been more of a floor guy. 4 to 5 catches, 50, 60 yards in the receiving game. So those are the complementary pieces for this week. Zay Flowers, Tyler Boyd, obviously with Jake Brown at quarterback, Jacoby Myers, Deontay Johnson, right, with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Maybe I might have put him higher if we knew that Mitch Trubisky was starting, or even Kenny Pickett. With Mason Rudolph, I think there's a little bit more question marks. Jaden Reed dealing with the turf toe. We got to see if he's healthy. Carries the upside, obviously. JSN, we know he carries the upside. And then Curtis Samuel has the nice floor. Complementary pieces. Next tier would be inconsistent wide receiver 1 for their team, potentially, but more like wide receiver 4 on the week, all right? Joshua Palmer this week going up against the Bills. Odell Beckham against the San Francisco 49ers. Romeo Doubs for the Green Bay Packers. Who the Packers got this week? Packers got Carolina against – Carolina's been keeping everything contained. And then Josh Downs in case Michael Pittman is not able to give it a go. These are riskier wide receiver 4s / flexes for your team, okay? All of them carry similar type of upside. Anywhere 100 yards and a touchdown is not really out of the realm of possibilities for Palmer, Dobbs, and Downs. OBJ, we really ain't seen that yet. But I think he plays well in this matchup. So against the Niners. So riskier, higher end options for their team below some of the more reliable wide receiver 2s for their teams. And then this last set is wide receiver 4s that I don't want to start. That I'm probably not starting. Wide receiver 4s that I don't want to start. Gabe Davis, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy, Dontavian Wicks, Noah Brown. And Judy's in this category because of the weather and the matchup. This is going to be a slower paced game. 34 points on the board for the Pats game. Staying away from Jerry Jeudy, who's in this tier to me. And then Noah Brown dealing with the injury, potentially Nico Collins coming back as well. All right. So they're the receiver rankings. Let me see the receiver questions. Y'all can throw them in the chat. Throw them in the chat.